Welcome to Anything But Politics, a service of the fine people at Live from My Office. Sponsored by Survive25.us. This is not a situation where that's my laundry hanging to dry. No, that's the back of one of our Survive2025.us shirts. Go right there. Right there. Doesn't have to be politics. We got climate change problems. We have wars. We have issues. Maybe your family's not happy with what you did for Father's Day. The fact of the matter is, Survive2025.us. Great shirts and hats. Order yours at Survive2025.us. The guest, I think you know him, don't you? He's not that way. He's that way. That's Ross Cochran. He's the executive producer. Hi, son.
Hi, Pops. That was quite the introduction.
Yeah, how are you today?
Happy to be here. How are you?
We had a great Father's Day weekend, you and I.
Mm-hmm.
You being a father, me being a father and a grandfather, thanks to you.
Now, people who read your Substack the day it came out already know this, but do you want to tell the fine folks who are listening what we did?
Well, we had a tea party. Yeah, we had a tea party. And you can't read it on Substack. If you go to Substack and look for Steve Cochran, you can get a written version of my thoughts on being a dad. And I think I like it. It's nice.
It is nice.
So,
as opposed to what you get on this podcast, which is nothing but animosity, derision.
Well, you know this. The whole point of this podcast is just to get a break from politics, right? Anything but politics. But anyway, we had a tea party, and I have never had, well, I shouldn't say never. I've had tea on maybe 2 or 3 occasions, but this was special tea. This was actual tea made by your daughter and my granddaughter, Abigail.
That's true. Yeah. I don't think I've had tea in a teacup before. I've definitely had a couple of times ordering at Starbucks going, let me try a tea latte, which folks who are tea snobs point out that just means you're ordering a tea, because chai means tea. And
literally, I could have learned Latin faster than I could learn Starbucks language.
That's true. Every time I drink tea, I go, no, this is why I drink coffee. That tea was definitely the most I've enjoyed it, not just because of the company, but because of my daughter's tireless presentation on it.
Yeah, and also the pinky thing.
He insisted we had our pinky up every time we would take a sip.
Yeah, right. But it was great. And as I point out in the Substack thing, the idea that your family loves you enough to hang around you is pretty good. So, yeah, pretty good. So I hope you check it out. And your actual Father's Day with the immediate the kids and stuff.
The kids, I think I'm not the only dad who started the day with a communication mishap. So Lauren was ready for us to have a really chill, relaxing morning before church. And then for context, I work at church. And so I woke up and was like, this is great. I got to get ready to go because I was doing announcements that morning.
Sunday's a work day.
Sunday's a little bit of a work day. So in Lauren's head, we were going somewhere at 10:30, and all of a sudden I was leaving at 8:30. So I was handed breakfast, which was, I tell all of this only to say that even on Father's Day, you have to communicate, and got to enjoy a delicious breakfast, got to enjoy a lot of quality time, got to enjoy a Father's Day nap, which is a rarity, but also something that I very much enjoyed. So it was
good. When you and your sister were kids, it was a special kind of tired that you can only understand if you're a father. Where
it's
you
the
go.
Best thing to be exhausted about.
Yeah, but you go, I'll stay awake long enough to keep them alive, and then I've got to close my eyes for 30 seconds, and they're on their own, no matter what their age is.
Yeah, staying awake long enough to keep them alive is a very good way to describe the past couple of weeks. That's a really good point.
So anyway, thanks for doing this and Anything But Politics. I just figured after Father's Day, the idea that you and I would do the podcast together was a good one. Later this week, we'll get back with another Live from My Office episode as well. And for the kids, those drop Thursdays and Fridays, depending on the flow of work here at the Live from My Office Monkey Run Studios factory.
Nice. There you go. Well done.
All right. So I'm going to give you 4 topics, not 5 in the interest of time. I'm going to give you 4 topics. You're going to tell me which one you want to do first through 4th. We'll start with the first one, of course. Here are your topics. It's a sign. Venetian blind.
Wow. Okay.
Just say no.
All right.
Or flip that treehouse.
Oops. Done. Flip that treehouse.
Flip that treehouse.
Sure.
You should explain that you and Lauren, my lovely daughter-in-law, you guys are you just bought you're in the process of buying a new house.
Yeah, we're in the process of buying a new house, and everyone who has bought and sold real estate within the past couple of years knows that really all I can say about it definitively is we are in the process of it, because anything can change at a moment's notice. and has.
Well, yeah, and I come from a time, I'm old enough to remember the 90s and even the 80s. And I come from a time where if you committed to buy a house, you stayed committed to buy the house. You didn't, and then I'm just spitballing here, but you didn't bail on buying the house because you decided your kids didn't want to live in a townhouse.
Hypothetically, yeah, exactly.
Not that any of that happened.
Nope. I don't know what you're talking about.
So, but you understand, you worked as a mortgage thief. I mean, a mortgage processor, and from my friend David Hochberg, and you learned the business. Have you got a general tip? Because this would be your second house you bought. Have you got a general tip for people that are buying houses?
It always comes back. This is something you always talked about with Hochberg, which is the amount of times people try to do something themselves that they have no business trying to do themselves. Just objectively doesn't make sense. So there are plenty of people who are listening who can go to any sort of big box lender because they don't need that much help. They got good credit. They're buying a house. They're not selling. Everything's kind of in order. Great. Go do that. And there's lots of people who are listening who need some help. What I've always said about David Hochberg is he was the bulldog you wanted and sometimes the bulldog you needed to help fight for people, because the amount of, actually, here's the way to say this because I can cut some of this. I became a loan officer.
Yes.
Because I scored nearly perfect on the ethics portion of my exam and barely good enough in every other area. And I love pointing that out because I think it speaks to the reality of the perception of people being mortgage thieves. So if you find someone you trust, hold on to them. If you need some help, the folks that work with Hochberg are great people to talk to.
Yeah, and I will say this about my friend David Hochberg. Yes, he's insane, but in a positive way for you. And he's a brilliant guy, and he will find a way, if you work with him, to get your house done. Now, he'll also yell at you, and you don't want to be caught in an elevator with him. But you're going to get a great situation for a mortgage.
Yeah.
But this isn't a commercial for Hochberg.
No.
This is anything but politics.
It's a commercial for Aft Electronics, pleasing people.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
So flip that treehouse is simply this. In the tiny town of Freeville, New York, a town you were recently in, sadly, your Uncle Mike passed and we were back for a funeral in upstate New York. And there is a housing development of tiny houses there. And it's one of 3 in upstate New York. Now, this gets a little bit deep in the weeds. But there's a woman who wrote an advice column for the Chicago Tribune for many, many years. And she lives in Freeville, and her husband is a tiny house developer. And so he, Mr. Schickel, he developed these tiny houses. He has hundreds of them.
This sounds like an SAT question.
What? Yeah, if this is, then that is. What I don't understand is how expensive tiny houses are.
Well, yeah, it's
now he rents these tiny houses for $3,000 to $4,000 a month.
Huh?
And this tiny town of Freeville, New York, by the way, cool little piece of history here. Freeville is named Freeville because it was in really a crucial part of the Underground Railroad.
Right.
After the Civil War.
Right.
So there's a lot of cool history there. But there's nothing in Freeville. Nothing. Nice people, but nothing. And if you're going to spend $4,000 renting a place.
Don't you want something? Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. So I have in front of me some tiny house statistics.
Okay.
Which I thought you might find interesting because, you're going through this buying a new house.
Okay, here we go.
The tiny house, the average price of a 900 square foot tiny house in America, the average price, take a guess. To buy.
$310,000.
$5,000.
Yeah, I think it's important for anyone who's listening who's older than me, which, let's be clear, is a lot of you. One of the things that my generation, I've said this before, the greatest generation built the highway system, kept us safe. And my generation built apps that make your face look bigger or smaller than it actually is. And part of the imagination and intuition of my generation is we pay more for less things and because it looks good on Instagram.
I don't understand a lot of things. I used to be the hippest old man in America. I'm not even close to that anymore because there's tons of things I just don't understand. And one of the things I don't understand is the compulsion, the obsession to live in a tiny house.
So the part of it I can get behind is the minimalistic part of it. Like, I enjoy a good spring cleaning purge. I enjoy looking at a bunch of clothes that I've not worn a long time and going, hey, I don't need these anymore, obviously, right? Like, that makes me feel really good. I feel like my house loses weight. I enjoy that. But you and I are not small people. You and I take up, your blind just went dead. Here you go. You're back now.
You,
You and I are not, I'm going to pick it up from you and I are not small people. You and I are not small people. You and I take up too much percentage of that 900 square feet
Yes.
just as people.
yes, and you with 3 kids in a 900 square foot house?
No.
The only thing more insane than that, and this is a true story, my friend Jim Gaffigan, who you've met, Jim Gaffigan had 4 children. He now has 5. He had 4 children, and he was living in a 1,500 square foot New York City apartment.
Yeah.
The idea that he didn't step on one and crush them is insane to me.
His book literally included a diagram of their house, not a floor plan, a diagram, because he wanted to include like bunk beds and secret food stashes.
Yeah. All right, so let me tell you a couple more things. This particular tiny house that I'm looking at here in my own personal paperwork has school ratings, as you would find on Zillow and other places, right? And when you buy a house, as a parent, certainly you want good schools, but for your property value, you want good schools. This $355,000 house, right at the average of what tiny houses cost in America, has a grade of 4 out of 10 for schools.
Yeah, this is the one in Freeville. We're talking.
No,
about
this is not Freeville, actually. This is in Tennessee. I bet the views are great.
I mean, Tennessee has more than just Tennessee has good people and some stuff. So it is different.
Sure.
Than Freeville.
Sure. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and 1 half bath, which I'm assuming is an outhouse. I think the half bath is you got to go outside. Maybe just open a window and pee.
Title of it.
The primary bedroom is on the 3rd level, which means with my knee, I would never get to it.
No, yeah. As far as you know, that house doesn't have a primary bedroom.
The great room is on the 2nd level.
Yes.
Maybe not so great. And the half bath is on the 1st level. The kitchen is on level 2. I picture the kitchen as a hot plate on a counter. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, yeah. And all of those, the way that they get marketed is like, you fold it up into the wall. There's all the different ways to storage. And every time I see one of those videos, I go, you guys have seen other houses though, right? Like, it's another Gaffigan joke about, my family, camping's a tradition in my family. And his joke is, it was a tradition in everyone's family until we invented indoors.
Right.
That's me about the tiny house phenomenon.
And even older than me is the fact that, there were these things called Murphy beds, what you're speaking of. This is like from the 40s and 50s, where in New York, they would save space because the beds would just go up into the wall. Now, I've never had one, don't plan on having one now. I'm not knocking tiny houses that much. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
I am. Tiny house community, come at me.
So can I combine 2 things I don't get here on Anything But Politics?
Please.
I don't get tiny houses. I don't get working from home. Do people work from home in a tiny house? And if they do, when do they lose their mind?
So you've never gotten work from home, which is always just so funny to me as someone whose job, your joke was always, I don't understand what retirement is. I've been home by noon and golfing every day for most of my career.
Yep.
You work from home, and you worked from home when you had an office. There's lots of shows you did where you were more often seen. Anytime you were seen in your office, it was an event.
Yeah. But the idea of going to a place and seeing other humans and disrupting their work day, that was a good time.
That's the part you missed. Yeah. All right. You're right. I'm wrong.
By the way, we should say that this is not your regular job, that you actually have a legitimate regular job. And you know this, but I'm very proud of you for this job. And I think you do a wonderful job. And I love seeing the people that you work with and how excited they are. Tell people where you work.
I'm the communications director at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Naperville. So it is for those of you who are local, it's the church with the giant steeple on 75th and Modaff, or near 75th and Modaff, I should say. And we've been here as part of this church for about coming up on 2.5 years. And I've been on staff for about 1.5 now.
And I've never seen you so happy in a job.
Yeah, it is. It's the best. It's the ability to help connect people to what this church is doing, what God's doing through this church. And also the ability to help serve ministries who are really in the trenches with folks is one of my favorite things about getting up every day.
And new members and new attendees are always welcome.
No, we actually have, no, of course. No, if you go to gshepchurch.org, GSHEP church.org, you can see more about us. And yeah, we would love to have you on a Sunday morning.
I'm going to pick your next topic for you because it ties into what we're talking about now. You're choosing It's a Sign.
I was. That's exactly what I was going
Yes.
to change.
And what we're going for here during It's a Sign are great church signs across America.
Oh, wow.
You
This
know?
is very tailored to the guest.
And the thing about great church signs is they really light up your drive around small towns. Small bars and churches have the best signs.
Yes.
I think I told you years ago I was driving in was it Atlantic City? It wasn't Atlantic City. Oh, it was Annapolis. In Annapolis, Maryland, where the Naval Academy is, and just another college I didn't go to. And I drove by a small bar, and it said, "Playing tonight, Mini Van Halen."
Oh, that's pretty great.
It's a phenomenal name for a band. I was struck by it so much. Actually, the bar itself was open. Not being a drinker, I did go in and say hi, and I don't know, I bought a water or whatever. But I said, "Tell me about Mini Van Halen." And it's a group of suburban moms that drive minivans.
Of course. That's
Tremendous.
amazing.
And they play Van Halen covers. It's tremendous.
Yeah, this is, we just did the plug for the church. This is a good opportunity. If you run an establishment that can sell water, you're guaranteed to get $20 from my father if you live on any road that he's driving down.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Here's a few of the greatest church signs ever. This is Brockport First Baptist Church. You may have a Brockport in your town. Pretend it's yours. No one ever talks about the greatest miracle of Jesus, that of having 12 close friends in his 30s. Here's another one. Life is ugly. Get a faith lift.
It's a little bit more direct than I'd like to be in my role, but yeah, no, you're not wrong.
This is an actual church sign, and I'm amazed that they put this up. I'm thinking this might be one of the non-denominational types like your dad. Staying in bed shouting, "Oh God," doesn't count as going to church.
Yeah.
Okay?
I've seen that.
Too hot to keep changing this sign. Sin bad, Jesus good. Details inside. I mean, these are great.
Yeah, it is. It's become a cottage industry. Like most of my there's a good percentage of my social media that's just church signs. And the best use of church signs is small church that has a little bit of a what do we have to lose type of mentality.
Yeah, it seems like it. And the more entertaining your sign is, I think the more curious people are about what's going inside the building.
Yeah. I mean, that's the word of advice to anybody who's also helping in comms at their church is there's no way to overstate how low the bar is that you can clear on perception. So if you just communicate the sense that you're a human.
Imagine you Catholics if you started rolling with this.
So that was the thing. There was a Catholic church, St. Matthias, which doesn't help narrow it down at all. And it was during the summer. And the sign just said free air conditioning. It's kind of all you need if you're a Catholic church. It's like, oh, wow, they understand.
I actually have one for that. Whoever stole our AC units, you can keep it because it's hot where you're going.
There you go. Nice.
I like this. Santa Claus never died for anybody. Fun for the holidays.
That's more of a thinker. Yeah, it's a little bit of a thinker.
Yeah. Join us because there's some things that Google can't answer.
There you go.
Bacon is 73% fat and super salty. Me too. Bacon, me too. I don't know what that has to do with church, but I like it.
Wow. Yeah, that's someone who just was going through something and they were in charge of the sign.
Dear weather, stop showing off. We get it. You're hot.
There you go. Sure.
Inflation hasn't affected the price of salvation. That's almost politics. We should probably drop that one.
Yeah, we can't include that. It's anything about politics. It's right there in the name.
Here's a church sign. If only closed minds came with closed mouths.
That sound you heard was all of people everywhere who've been in a church going, yeah, that'd be great. That would be great.
Let's see here. When flowers don't keep it in their plants.
Wow. A lot of sex stuff for church signs.
Yeah. They're going for the, let's get people in here.
They're working blue.
A lot of puns, too, on some of these signs. I'm sure you've noticed. Gardening for God brings peace of mind. Mm-hmm. That one's not okay.
No.
I love this. Pretend it's Easter. Come back this Sunday.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
A silly rabbit. Easter's for Jesus.
Wow.
And a whole bunch of Easter-themed ones here.
I hope they changed the spelling so that they sounded like the guy.
How about this? Skip rope, not church.
There you go. I mean, that's a little bit of a outdated terminology, but yeah.
And in the interest of time, we'll leave it with this one, even though there's a million of these. Hey, anybody wondering, where did Noah put the woodpeckers?
I wasn't, but now I am.
That's tremendous. Your remaining topics are Venetian blind and just say no.
Let's go Venetian blind. I feel like just say no is going to be a good place to end.
As you know, I was in Venice with your mom and your sister a year or so ago, and the people of Venice are going through something. The water's rising. The city is flooding. And what they're really annoyed about is Jeff Bezos having his wedding there. And I'm not judging him on it, but here are some details. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez, the former TV journalist who I'd never heard of prior to being associated with Jeff Bezos, are having the, according to locals, upteenth gigantic event, which will have nothing to do with any good for Venetians. Venice has turned into a playground for the rich. The days-long shindig, expected to start in 1 week, June 24th, and go for several days, has aggravated almost all locals. Now, to get a sense of what it's like living in Venice, you get up in the morning and you go outside and you get in a boat, your boat, and you go to wherever you're going.
Right.
At least once a day during high tide, the center of the city floods. And there are restaurants and diners and things where people are handed what amounts to boots, waiters, because the water comes up while they're eating.
Yeah, sure.
And they stay outside and they enjoy it. There's posters featuring an image of Bezos' head on a rocket blasting into space.
Sure.
They've appeared across the city. The boldest pre-wedding stunt so far is a giant banner reading "No Bezos" on the bell tower of San Giorgio Basilica in the center of the city, where they're going to get married. And people say the wedding is a symbol of everything that's wrong with Venice right now.
Sure. So is it just because like they're a bunch of loud Americans coming in and invading? What is the connect the dots for me on how this is terrible for Venice? Listen, if you look at any clip of Jeff Bezos, he seems like the kind of guy that if you're just in his presence, it's not good for you. But
yeah, this is a guy who seems to have lost his way from selling books in his garage to becoming the third richest man in the world.
A little bit.
The way it's bad for people is all over Europe now, there is no more affordable housing. And there's apparently more than 1,000 houses in Venice that have been abandoned because the locals couldn't live there. So people are saying, okay, have your wedding here. And when you have your wedding here, leave a bunch of money behind so we can develop these as affordable housing for locals.
I do think it says a lot about the fact that this is a city that's being literally wiped off the map because of climate change. And the idea of having to deal with Jeff Bezos for like less than a week is really the thing that's putting them over the edge.
You got to be pissed about something. I'm not, listen, I don't blame him, right? I don't blame him. I mean, you do have a beautiful city and you want to sell your beautiful city, but it doesn't mean your beautiful city has to be taken over.
100%. No, they are the heroes of this story. And I think anyone who is wondering what that marriage is like, they should look to see the clip of his girlfriend seeing Leonardo DiCaprio. And you can see in her face, she has a moment of, is Jeff Bezos worth it?
Yeah. 100%. The wedding will cost millions and millions of dollars. No big surprise. There are $9,000 a night hotel rooms have been booked out completely, as has the entire water taxi fleet. I don't know if I ever told you, because of my one leg, I almost fell into whatever body of water was there trying to get onto a water taxi. And we wonder why people hate Americans.
Yeah, if you're Jeff Bezos, buy the hotel.
Yeah.
Like, why are you charging people $9,000 to go to the wedding? Yeah. Buy the hotel.
You're not wrong. No, you're not wrong. And by the way, guests include Leonardo, Oprah Winfrey, Ivanka Trump,
sure,
Kim Kardashian,
sure,
and Carrot Top, which I didn't see coming.
And Gallagher 2.
Your remaining topic is Just Say No. Just Say No involves tipping.
Okay, here we go.
And the tipping culture we're in. Now, I think you would agree with me, because you've seen your mother and I have disagreements about this. I am an over-tipper.
Yeah. Yeah, no, actually, similar just plug. If you see my dad walking anywhere, and you'll notice, and you'll have time to do this, set up anything that could require a tip, like 200 yards away from him, and you'll get whatever cash he has in his wallet.
But it has gotten out of hand. I will say that. You know what, dude?
For sure.
Hang on one second.
Hello.
Hi, Dad. Quick.
Hi, Dada.
You need to put on headphones to hear me. Hey, baby. What's up?
Saw my toys is in the van.
Double dog. What toys were you looking for today?
See?
Did you have something specific you wanted to show grandma or something?
What
if I...
Hey, you want to say hi to your dad? Come here. Wait, no. If you have to go potty, go, bud.
Come by.
No, go the other way, buddy, because that one stuff might get ruined.
I could drop off the backpack. I'm away to take care of Willow.
Can you please?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Let your brother say hi, and then we got to finish because your daddy's got a meeting.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, just put those on, bud.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, Bubba. How you doing? Yeah? What did you and Grandma and your sister do today?
We watched a very kooky show called Cookie's Playhouse.
Pee-wee's Playhouse.
No, Cookies.
Sure.
And
He was
it's really kooky. He had the chair, and the side things were actually hands, and they slapped the person.
Yeah.
And you can stream it.
Yep.
Right. Tell your daddy you got something to give him later.
I have something to give you later. Got it?
I'm ready.
It's something that starts with a D. Wait, no. It's something, an artwork. It's something for Father's Day I forgot to give you. So I'm going to give it to you today.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Okay. Bye, Daddy. Bye, Daddy.
Bye, Daddy.
All right, get out there, bud. Go. No, I need that on, bud. Need that on. Or you can turn it off. No, come on. I got to finish this because your day's got a meeting, bud. Close that, please. Guys, close the door, please. Thank you. All right. I thought I heard your mom yelling, so that's why I was urgently getting up.
No, I'm glad you did.
All right, we're still rolling, and I'm picking it up for the final 3 minutes here. So yeah, you're not wrong. I'll tip. However, it has gone. It's gone too far. And the most annoying thing to me is when I pick up. I don't drink coffee, as you know, but when I pick up coffee for whomever in the family, and it's just assumed, where the Starbucks person hands you the machine, turns it around, and the first screen is, how much are you tipping me? 1, you haven't done the job yet. 2, you're in the window, you're handing something to me that's just been made. 3, I'm going to tip you, but now I'm annoyed.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad you're bringing this up as a scenario, because this is a broader scenario than Starbucks. What do you tip when you are picking something up that someone else has made? Because presumably that's getting cashed out to everybody. But I'm always going lower when it's not someone bringing me the food.
I have a list here. I'm going to run through these quickly. This is advised by professionals. 1 is called the counteroffensive. Kind of what you're talking about. Most dining experiences now involve standing at a counter, picking it up, and leaving. The establishment's selling you a product, asking for a 20% tip for the thing that they're selling you.
Right.
Is insane.
Sure.
Because they're making the thing. Now, they suggest 0% for this. I will go to 10. I'll go to 10%. By the way, you don't deserve the 10%. I'm going to give it to you anyway.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is also like American restaurant, capitalism system stuff where you're giving them 10% because that person needs it.
Yeah. And honestly, if they're providing a service, the first thing you need to do is be nice to them. And second thing you can do is add a little extra.
Yeah.
And for people who have, probably kids or even grandkids who work in that business, eye contact matters. It does. So the counteroffensive, 0%. This is something called the hybrid hustle. You order at the counter, the food's delivered by a waiter to your table, or in some cases, your car, or you order at the counter, you pick up the food yourself, but you notice tables are being bussed by staff. In that case, they suggest 5 to 10%. I'll give you 12. I'll go 12%. I've done well. I can kick that extra 2% in.
Yeah, no, you can.
How about the buffet brigade? It's funny. I don't eat at buffets, so I don't think of this. But the buffet brigade, what do you do at a buffet where people, literally, a choreographed buffet brigade where they're bringing out the food, they're reloading, right? There's a lot of work involved in a buffet.
Sure.
Some people are going to die of botulism.
Right.
You got to have medical staff standing by. They suggest 10% for the buffet. I'm going to 13. I'm going to lucky 13.
So you're going 1 more for the buffet, which I assume is just some sort of healthcare tax.
Yeah.
You've put on yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's your coffee question. Coffee or cocktails? You should tip, says the tipping expert, who I think we both agree with so far, right? On the minimums?
I'd say so. I mean, I'm going with their actual recommendations. I don't have a Steve Cochran inflation economy, but yes.
They go with $1 minimum per drink, and if they put extra effort in, double it. If you know the person that makes it, in other words, you're a regular, and you come in with your 12-page order, and they always get it right, how about something a little extra for the effort?
Sure.
But they're saying $1 minimum per drink. Do you agree with that?
Sure. I mean, I think because that it effectively works out to be like 20%. You get a $5 drink, you put down $1 extra. Sure.
Cash remains king. Can you explain why that is?
because of tipping out and because of taxes, I assume.
Service charge and
Or the service charge with the cards.
yeah, and also the tax chase, and you're going to hide it because you're a criminal. What about delivery? Because I haven't had food delivered in forever. Do you guys order food to have it delivered?
Yeah, from a couple of different places.
So how much do you tip on that?
You guys are not the standard for that.
Don't cook. Is that the words you're looking for?
No. I was going to go do a full like roast of my parents, which isn't the helpful thing for this podcast.
And remember, you like your mom.
I do. And I like my dad too. It's just eat more material there. Tipping the delivery person specifically is different to me, because if we're getting pizza, that's a tip that's being shared between the 4 people who work at a pizza place. I try never to do, your DoorDashes or your Uber Eats has got a little bit of a better rep, but because those companies are insane and the expectations are insane, and what they steal from the restaurants is also insane.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say if you can give the driver specifically like a consistent number for whatever that means for your family, like that's kind of the goal.
This person goes down in the weeds here again with no salt. No salt meaning state and local taxes. In other words, you should look at the receipt.
Oh, okay.
You look at the receipt, take the state and local taxes out, and then tip on whatever's left, because the idea is the government is charging you to eat.
Sure. Which is true. But I also think if you're the person who's getting food delivered to you in America in 2025, you're not doing homework in order to get that food.
No, I'm not doing that. The salt's fine. And finally, this one should be obvious. Girl Scout cookies and lemonade stands.
Yeah, that's just, as someone who has seen this and has done this in the Steve Cochran economy, that is just whatever cash is in your wallet at
It's
that
100%.
time. Yes. It's
$20 for the cookies, you get 20 more.
Yes. It's 100% tip. It's 100% premium. Based off of this exchange, if you are a small child who has maintained eye contact, been nice, and is a treat to you, Steve Cochran, like a regular, that person's just getting your checking account routing number.
Again, you're not wrong. All right, we only have a minute here, but would you do me this? Father Tom Hurley and I have talked about this many times, about the problem of attendance in church. You spoke to it earlier. Everybody's welcome and all those things. But just one more time, for Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, would you tell people why they should come?
I'll go back to one of the signs you said about Easter, pretend it's Easter, come back. I don't genuinely, if you're listening to this, I don't care about your church attendance. I genuinely don't. The mistake that I think folks inside the church make is they forget how easy it is to not be a part of a church. The vast, vast, vast majority of people who are in a church have been a part of a church for most of them their whole lives. 60% of people at minimum, depending what server you go, if they're in church as an adult, it's because they were in church as a kid. Therefore, if you are someone who is looking to join a church, the first thing you should be looking for is a place that you feel like you can belong. And what we do here, we have 2 different services that happen concurrently at the same time. So we've got a contemporary service. We have a traditional service. So we are able to offer whatever kind of style fits some of your personal preferences. And we try to lean into some of those choices because we recognize the ways in which that helps influence whether or not you feel like you can belong.
And what's the website?
gshepchurch.org.
And Instagram, similar?
Instagram is Good Shepherd-Naperville because it's a handle that I inherited.
Yeah, right. You're trying to clean all that up.
We're working on a rebrand to fix some of that up.
I'll leave you with one more church sign. At this point, Jesus doesn't need... Wow. I'm a professional.
Take 2. Let's go.
At what point Jesus doesn't... At this point, Jesus doesn't need to take the wheel. He needs to pull over and spank some of y'all with his flip-flop.
Wow. It's a vivid picture.
See this right here? No, not this, right? This, Survive 2025, Survive 2025.us. And never more important than now. It doesn't have to be a fight. It's 100% cotton therapy. You can get yourself a hat. You can get yourself a shirt. Order yours today. Ross Cochran's the executive producer, and more importantly, my son, and even more importantly, the father to the 3 greatest grandchildren ever. I'm sure yours are fine. They're not as good as mine.
Thanks, Pops.
Thank you, buddy, and thanks for being on Anything But Politics.
Woo!
Don't cut yet. Let me stop this so it loads. It'll just take a second.